from Lansing, Illinois, and she is accompanied by parents Kim and Julius Wade and niece Winter Rose Wade. Jaylene has played in 70 games, starting 49 of those in her 4 years as a Cougar. She has scored a total of 605 points, 205 assists, and 67 steals. Jaylene has a 776 free throw
Good evening and welcome inside a Geisman Gymnasium for the CUC Women's Basketball Senior Day as the Cougars get set to take on the Milwaukee School of Engineering Raiders. I'm Carter Gledhill, joined by Parker Kelly on the Cougar Sports Network. And let's start off by touching with the 7 seniors that will be celebrated today. Jaylene Wade, Michaela Ellis, Bailey Steinkamp, Chloe Shafsma, as well as Madeline McGrath, Kayla Jackson, and Jada Dixon. Those 7 players for this team. We heard a lot about their career stats, and some of them in terms of CUC program history being amongst the top 10 in their respected categories of what we'll get into in the game, but obviously a special day when it comes to Senior Day.
Absolutely. They have all been foundational in turning the tide of this CUC women's basketball program. They each provide their own senior leadership, and they each provide their own skill set that's a unique role to this team, but they provide senior leadership nonetheless.
And now let's take a trip down memory lane to Wednesday night as the Cougars picked up a big-time conference victory over the Benedictine University Eagles. It was a nail-biter by a final score of 52-50. The Cougars didn't have the lead until the fourth quarter after having it until the 5.5-minute mark in the first quarter. And during that middle time, it seemed like CUC lost steam and gained momentum, but there was one play in particular that really set the team up for success, and that was from a player off the bench.
Sydney Lloyd making a half-court shot to end the first quarter. Before she made that shot, there was no momentum for the CUC program, but after she hit the shot, all the momentum went to the Cougars, and it ended up in them being able to pull out a victory over the Eagles.
And we've talked about it since the team has come back from CIT, that there are some key players missing. But in the absence of those key players, 2 stepped up big time on Wednesday night. It was the freshman Kaylee Hopkins, who had 14 points, which was a career high for her, along with 5 rebounds and a couple of assists. But it was also Allison McGregor, 14 points for her, 13 rebounds, and that's her 4th double-double of the season.
Talking about McKaylee Hopkins and stepping up when her team needs her most and making the most of her opportunity, getting her first career start and leading the team in points is not an easy task to complete. And Allie McGregor, she's been doing it all year on the board, so this is really nothing new to her. But her 4th double-double of the season, she's been very impressive for the Cougars all season long.
Now let's take a look at the opponent tonight, the Raiders, I should say, from Milwaukee School of Engineering. 4-13 on the season, and it's been an up-and-down season for them. They're coming into Geisman tonight on a losing streak. But the one thing about them is there's one player that the Cougars really just need to lock down, and that's Nina Pearl, their leading scorer.
Nina Pearl is a very dynamic player, and she's been the heartbeat of this MSOE team. The Cougars will have to focus on her tonight. She should be the focus of their game plan and neutralizing her so she doesn't go on a scoring rampage.
And well, the one thing that's interesting about the Raiders is they're one of 3 teams that score under 50 points a game. And another team that is also in that same category were the Regents of Rockford University, which the Cougars lost to in an absolute stunner here inside a Geisman Gymnasium the game before they went off to CIT. It was an upset loss for the Cougars as they were projected to win that game. It should have been an easy win for them. But again, this is a low-scoring offense, but this Raiders defense is ranked 3rd in the conference. So what can the Cougars do differently against the Raiders than what they did against the Regents?
Well, there's not really some complicated answer. What the Cougars have to do is they have to step up and score when they get opportunities. It's not really anything special, and it's very simple. But we mentioned that this MSOE team is 3rd in the conference in overall defensive efficiency. So the Cougars just have to be able to get creative and find different ways to score and just put the ball in the basket.
Well, the Cougars definitely looked energized as they took the court after the pregame ceremonies. Let's see if that correlates to the gameplay we're about to see for a 4:15 tip-off inside a Geisman Gymnasium. Stick around for starting lineups and more on the Cougar Sports Network. So as the ceremonial senior day lineup will take the court, the senior starters for the Cougars right now: Bailey Steinkamp, Michaela Ellis, Jada Dixon, Madeline McGrath, and Kayla Jackson. For the Cougars, temporarily out there, they are the honorary starters today. For the Raiders, they will have their 5 starters, which will be Mahima Chalksky, Skylar Flanagan, Nina Pearl, Ella Menson, and Chloe Kirkjian. And all of the Cougars have touched the ball and scored a point. There you go. So a special moment for CUC, especially with a lot of those players out due to injury. And I think one player in particular you want to point out, Bailey Steinkamp, number 13, hasn't played in a game this season for the Cougars, but has been an instrumental part of the success for CUC over the last 4 years.
She's one of those players that's provided a lot of leadership, and she's not necessarily a vocal leader as much as she leads by her actions. She's always in the weight room putting in the work, and she's really been foundational for building this CUC program.
So the starters for the Cougars: number 12, Chloe Schaafsma; number 11, McKaylee Hopkins; number 3, Jaylene Wade, as well as number 2, Princess Gates, and number 30, Allison McGregor. The Cougars win the opening tip-off, and we're underway inside Geisman Gymnasium. Jaylene Wade making her 71st appearance for the Cougars in her career, her 50th career start, as McKaylee Hopkins takes the first crack at scoring for CUC. Gets her own rebound. CUC gets a new shot clock. And feeding inside, Hopkins to McGregor. Princess Gates on the wing, drives to the block, floats it off the side of the rim, and Hopkins in there for the jump ball to be forced. And already in that possession, we saw McKaylee Hopkins put into that point guard role where instead of Jaylene Wade bringing the ball up, Hopkins is bringing the ball up and allows for Wade to open up more, but it gives more chance for the freshman guard in Hopkins to get involved with the offense.
And I kind of like this approach by Coach Lauren Martin. McKaylee Hopkins is just one of those speedy, versatile players, and I like her at the point.
Mahima Chalksky, the freshman from Park Ridge, Illinois, hits the first bucket of the game.
And if you're the Raiders, that's exactly how you want to start off a game. You're on a 3-game losing skid, and you're playing on the road in Geisman. It's a tough environment, and that's exactly how you want to start, by hitting a 3.
Well, it's also a little sweeter, too, when you pick up a win on senior day against the team you're playing against, as Princess Gates gets an offensive rebound. McGregor, somehow there, she's a ball magnet. Somehow, in some way, when she's in the paint, the ball always finds her.
She just always finds herself in the right position at the right time, and right there, she was in perfect position to get the offensive board.
So the foul goes against number 22, Ella Menson. McGregor in the last game against the Eagles, 14 points, 13 rebounds. Talked about it. It's her 4th double-double of the season, back-to-back to be exact. She had a 14-point performance against Rockford University as well. Only hits 1 free throw. Chalksky bringing the ball up for the Raiders. 4-16 on the season, 3-10 in the NAC Conference. CUC able to bounce back to 500 basketball after their win on Wednesday night. They're now 8-5 in the NAC. 8 seconds on the shot clock. Raiders still far away from the basket. Pearl inside, guarded by Schaafsma. Good defense by the senior.
And that's a great defensive possession by the Cougars, and that's kind of what you need. You know that this Raiders team kind of struggles a little bit on offense, so being strong on the defensive end is a really great sign here early in the game.
And a great take from McKaylee Hopkins, just couldn't finish. Used Allison McGregor as a screen. And again, if it's going to be that off-ball movement for CUC that they had success with against the Eagles, and Hopkins actually got a hand on the shot from Pearl under the basket. 10 seconds on the shot clock. Flanagan at the top. Gives it inside. Menson, turnaround jumper, no good.
So far, they're back-to-back great defensive possessions for the Cougars, and another point of emphasis for Coach Martin is the rebounding aspect, and they've done great in that area so far.
Wade took one too many steps before dribbling. Travel called on the guard. It was mentioned during her pregame ceremony that she is the 6th highest leading assist distributor in the CUC program history with 205 career assists. So one of the many names on this 2022-2023 squad that finds themselves in the program record book. Raiders trying to get something going inside. Flanagan looks for help in the middle, and it's Nina Pearl able to float one in.
And Carter, we talked about it pregame, but that should be the Cougars. One of their points of emphasis is number 15, Nina Pearl. She's a dynamic, versatile player, and she can really beat you in many different ways.
This is a Raiders team that lost 67-61 to the Aurora University Spartans earlier this week. Wade, a three-pointer, no good. Rebound by Kirkjian.
We also talked about Cougars needing to capitalize when they get open looks. Right there, that is a shot that Jaylene Wade probably wishes she had back.
Well, the three-pointer was a struggle for the Cougars in their last game. They were 2 for 14 against the Eagles, but they were 0 for 4 in the second half. And now a foul is called on Princess Gates. That'll send Skylar Flanagan to the free throw line for 3 free throws. Flanagan appearing in her 18th game this season for MSOE with a free throw percentage of just under 69%. Raiders are coached by Hannah Trees in her 4th season. The Cougars by Coach Lauren Martin in her 5th. Little history between these two teams. The last matchup, the Raiders won by nearly 20 points on February 5th of last season, 76-59. Currently lead the Cougars in the all-time record, 14-10.
And the Cougars know the history of this matchup coming in, and they're looking to flip the script today.
Foul is called on Nina Pearl. That is her first, team's third. And the first substitution off the bench for Coach Martin is junior guard Nazuri Wiggum, replacing Princess Gates. And Wiggum has picked up some good minutes here in the second half of the season. He's been a good ball distributor, but also she's just a great role player as well.
Absolutely. That was one of the things I was going to say about her. She's not necessarily a great scorer, but she knows her role, and she does it very well.
Wade hits her first bucket of the game. Cougars down 8-3, 5:28 remaining in the first quarter. Hopkins able to poke it away from Chalksky, and that's what she does so well, is getting right up in the opponent's face, poking it right out from under them.
And she leads the team in steals with 34, just under 2.5 a game. And she's also fourth in the NAC in steals per game in that category.
Rakia Williams checking in for the Raiders. It's been a slow start to this game. We mentioned in the pregame show, MSOE does not score many points, but they play exceptional defense. A top 5 defense in the NAC conference. CUC trying to get on them early and avoid finding themselves down at halftime again. But Nazuri Wiggum able to maneuver around the Raiders defenders and gets inside.
And we just talked about how great of a role player she is. That was a nice move by Wiggum, kind of slicing and dicing through the defense, finding the open lane and getting to the basket.
A good fake inside from Williams, but she travels. And right now what we've seen so far from MSOE is they're trying to get inside on CUC in the paint.
And they know that that is an area that the Cougars struggle with interior defense. And right now, MSOE is trying to attack that early.
Michaela Ellis checking into the game for CUC, her first appearance since January 18th. Williams in the post, able to get around Shafsma.
And right, that was pretty solid defense by Chloe Shafsma. Just has to be able to move her feet a little bit, step over, and kind of cut off that ability just to get to the rim.
Wiggum looking inside. Now Wade, and she shoved at the free throw line. Foul goes against Mahima Chalksky. So Chalksky picks up her first personal foul.
And I like this approach by the Cougars. If you know that you're coming into this game kind of struggling a little bit from behind the three-point line, try to draw these fouls from the MSOE players, and eventually that'll lead to trips to the charity stripe for a chance for free points there.
MSOE playing a soft zone defense. Shafsma gets tangled up with Flanagan on her drive. Jump ball, possession arrow favors MSOE. And McKaylee Hopkins will check in for Shafsma. CUC averaging just under 67 points per game. Middle of the pack defense in the conference as Flanagan puts up a three-pointer and swishes it. Skylar Flanagan now with 6 points, puts the Raiders up by 8.
Talk about a strong start to a game. First knocking down all 3 free throws when she got to the line, and then knocking down a big 3 to give MSOE a little momentum in the first.
CUC trying to just move it around the perimeter. Ellis will fire up a 3. That's short. Michaela Ellis, one player the Cougars can rely on for scoring, but the question is, she's been out for a couple games. How long will it take her to get back into her regular rhythm of scoring?
Yeah, her last appearance was January 18th at Aurora University. It's been a while, and she's kind of showing a little bit of rust here early, but Coach Martin's kind of wanting to get her some extra minutes today to get her back in the flow of the game.
Transfer from Kent State. She's played with CUC for 3 years, and she gets fouled on the baseline. Chloe Kirkjian picks up the foul. 4th team foul already for the Raiders, 2:41 remaining in the first quarter. Grace Ellington comes in to replace number 4, Mahima Chalksky. Hopkins out to Wade in the corner. Ellis, another open look 3, no good.
And even though Michaela Ellis missed the shot right there, that was great ball movement by the Cougars. We talked about the Cougars need to get a little bit more creative to find those open ways of scoring, and that was excellent ball movement.
And a three-pointer for Flanagan again. Her second of the quarter, and it forces a timeout by Coach Martin and the Cougars. Raiders lead CUC 16-5 with 2 minutes, 15 seconds remaining in the opening quarter. Two three-pointers from Skylar Flanagan has put the Raiders on an 8-0 run over the last 2 minutes, and Cougars are finding themselves down early yet again in the opening quarter.
And it's really just been the Skylar Flanagan show. We see that coming into this game, she averaged just under 8 points per game, and she already has 9, and it's not even the end of the first quarter. The Cougars have to be able to close out when she's shooting.
And one thing, kind of going back to the last game against the Eagles, that was an answer for CUC in the second half. Can they shut down the opposing team's run with a run of their own?
That's been a point of emphasis. Oftentimes, whenever the Cougars find themselves getting knocked in the mouth, they kind of lie down a little bit. They need to be able to come alive when that happens and overcome adversity in that way.
Jaylene Wade fouls Raikia Williams inside. Williams, especially on that fast break, got down to the block early and was calling for the ball immediately after Grace Ellington brought it over the half-court line.
And that was just a little bit of a miscommunication error on the Cougars' defensive end. It got to be better at communicating.
Williams making her 21st appearance on the season for MSOE. 61% free throw shooter on the season, and Sydney Lloyd getting a little excited, trying to check into the game early, when she will be coming in following the free throw from Williams. So Williams goes 2 for 2 from the free throw line. Now we see the half-court shot specialist, Sydney Lloyd, come back in for the Cougars. She played a season high in minutes and also picked up her first points against the Eagles, and it all started with that key play you mentioned in the pregame show, the half-court shot. So maybe Coach Martin putting her in here is trying to spark a little life in this offense.
Yeah, if we're going back to that Benedictine game, I mean, the Cougars had no momentum up until that half-court shot, and really single-handedly she provided the momentum the Cougars needed to be able to finish out that game versus the Eagles.
Well, she had a look in that last possession and missed her mark. Right now, what a great feed inside. I was going to get to a point about Lloyd, but an even better play from the Raiders. Grace Ellington able to cut back behind the Cougars. Rakia Williams with the pass. Under a minute to play, Raiders lead by 15.
Rakia Williams showing off her vision, almost looked like a quarterback on that end of the court.
And Michaela Ellis telling the Raiders they're too small to guard her. First points for Michaela Ellis on senior day.
I like the confidence by Michaela Ellis, but when you're down 13, now's not the time to trash talk.
Could be a big ending to the first quarter in terms of momentum, and Lloyd with the block on Kirkjian. And 3-second violation called on Chloe Kirkjian in the paint. Substitution for the Raiders, number 24, Wendy Guan, checks in. So McKaylee Hopkins will bring it up for CUC with the shot clock off. Again, Lloyd is now in the right corner. They've spaced out the Cougars 4 flat along the baseline. Hopkins waiting, now strikes, spinning around in the paint. Jumper, and good.
Nice move right there from McKaylee Hopkins, showing off the footwork.
A lot of options on that play. McKaylee Hopkins found it best for her to take it inside. Cougars trail 20-9 after the first quarter of play. When we come back, more Cougar basketball on the Cougars Sports Network. After the first quarter of play, the Cougars are down to 11 to MSOE, and in that opening quarter for the Cougars, 0 for 4 from three-pointers. Again, it's not something that is new for CUC to start off slow from behind the three-point arc, but right now it seems like the Raiders are controlling both sides of the Cougars games.
And it's been a common theme over the past couple of games for the Cougars to struggle. But when they're getting inside of the paint, they're able to make things happen and get shots up and get things to go. That's what they need to do more of. And if you notice, MSOE is fouled 4 times in that opening quarter. Keep drawing the fouls by MSOE, being aggressive on the offensive end, and things should work out pretty well.
Gates with the pump fake, baseline, gets fouled. And I think that drive that we just saw from Gates is a perfect example of what happens when you attack a team down low, try to get inside, and they're forced to foul, because at some point in the game, it'll space up everything outside where you're able to take those three-pointers once you get more confidence.
Exactly. You draw defenders when you attack, and that's exactly what Princess Gates did right there. Eventually, it will open up for him.
So Gates misses the first free throw. 17th appearance on the season for Gates. Goes 0 for 2, but Wiggum's there for the offensive board. Hopkins mid-range jumper rattles out, and the Raiders will dribble it out of bounds. That's Ella Menson. Number 22 in red. Found herself outside the quarter play.
Cougars got a lucky break right there.
Sydney Lloyd will inbound for CUC. Cougars wanted to get it inside to Lloyd. Lloyd now over to Wiggum, a three-pointer, way too strong, but two Cougars in the area to chase it down. McGregor inside. Wiggum, pump fake, spinning around, met by two Raiders, but finds McGregor. It's just too strong of a pass. And now a jump ball is called.
And I would just like to highlight, we talked about how great of a rebounder Allie McGregor is and how she's always in the right spot at the right time. So far, McKaylee Hopkins also has 2 offensive rebounds, and she's been Allie McGregor-like-esque a little bit here in the first half.
Well, I'd say scoring-wise, she's kind of taken on the game approach that Michaela Ellis has, where it's 1-2, get inside, and then pull up and hesitation jumper or create that separation. That's where we've seen McKaylee Hopkins' offensive game kind of go towards in recent games, as the Raiders miss a mid-range jumper from Chalkshi. And here comes Hopkins. Lloyd, pump fake. Again, CUC very hesitant to start off each possession outside. And a travel violation is called on Lloyd. 2 substitutions for MSOE. 3-point specialist Skylar Flanagan comes in, as well as number 15, Nina Pearl. Pearl with only 2 points in this game so far. Again, the only double-digit scorer on the season for MSOE. Finds herself in the corner. Open look three and cashes it in front of the Cougar bench.
And the Cougars have just been struggling with their three-point defense. And right now, we talked about Nina Pearl, but right now the focus needs to be on both Nina Pearl and Skylar Flanagan and closing out from 3.
Lloyd again, pump fake in the corner. And it goes out of bounds. The Raiders have started this game now 4 for 5 from three-pointers. On the season, the Raiders only 27% as a team. So Michaela Ellis checks back into the game along with Jaylene Wade. And this is something that CUC has struggled with sometimes in the second half, is three-point defending, as Ellis, turnaround jumper. Michaela Ellis, again, strong base player. She has great footwork, and she finds herself in those situations where she's able to create those mid-range jumpers because of her skills.
And not only does she have great footwork, but she's famous for that jump shot, and that was very impressive in between 2 MSOE defenders.
Should also mention it's Michaela Ellis's birthday, so playing with a little bit extra fire in her. More
Birthday
family and
senior
fans,
day.
yeah, family and friends in attendance. Senior day and your birthday, that's got to be a recipe for success. Hopefully Michaela Ellis can put together a performance that matches the caliber. McKaylee Hopkins out to Ellis. Wade, three-pointer, left wing, just leaves it short.
And right now you haven't, shooting from 3 has been a struggle. Continue, like we talked about, continue driving inside and being aggressive. You have to be patient and wait for the 3 to open up. Right now it's not opening up for the Cougars, so don't try to force anything.
And a steal from Ellis, but not quite so, as Williams able to float it up, and a foul is called from the back on Ellis. And a spark plug right now off the bench for the Raiders is Rykia Williams. She has been all over the court in terms of rebounding, but also seems like she has an extra gear that she shifts into when she gets the ball and drives towards the basket.
Yeah, we've seen that this is her second trip to the free throw line, and overall, the Raiders are perfect from the free throw line, 5 for 5. A chance to go 7 for 7 with 2 makes right here.
Well, Williams is coming off of back-to-back double-digit games. She had 15 against Edgewood and 12 against Aurora. And Williams was able to pick up her 3rd double-double of the season against the Spartans. So her game is elevated here in the second half of the season for the Raiders. And right now, the Raiders lead by 13 over the Cougars on Senior Day. CUC has yet to have any explosive plays or a long run for them to go on scoring-wise. McKaylee Hopkins inside right hand, and one. What a finish, McKaylee Hopkins.
Talk about making the most of your opportunity in McKaylee Hopkins' second career start. She is taking over this game right now.
The freshman dropped a career-high 14 points in her first start. And that move inside, again, kind of goes back to what we talked about just a few possessions ago, is the different kind of skills that she brings to the court. And I guess finisher is one that we forgot to mention, but she proved us right and wrong there.
Yeah, and she's not playing like a freshman right now. Usually freshmen, they tend to play a little bit timid, and right now she's just taking it over. She is putting the team on her back, and it's really impressive to see from a freshman.
Guan able to get around Hopkins, can't finish inside. It was a good move by the guard to get around the freshman. Now Hopkins, other way, Ellis off to Wade. CUC again starting their offense around the perimeter, looking to get inside. But the Raiders have been playing lockdown in the paint. Allison McGregor with only 1 point off a free throw so far. And an offensive foul is called on Michaela Ellis. And now the more concerning matter at hand is Michaela Ellis was a little slow to get off the court.
That's definitely something that you don't like to see if you're a Cougar fan. Michaela Ellis has kind of struggled with injury this season, but it's a great sign that she got up and she's ready to go.
Second personal foul on Ellis, and all alone, a great play from the Raiders. Chloe Kirkjian, a little pick and roll action from MSOE.
And if you're the Cougars, you have to be able to communicate on defense. You can't allow plays like that to happen and expect to be in a close contest.
Hopkins with a three, no good. Gates able to get a rebound underneath. Now McGregor had the rebound and was poked away by Kirkjian. Chasing it down and keeping it in play was number 11, Skylar Flanagan. Chasing down the far sideline and was able to keep it in. So Chloe Schaafsma will come in to replace Michaela Ellis. Hopefully Ellis is all right. Again, we saw her go down to the court holding her right knee. Again, first game back since coming back from injury. Wade using some screens inside, gets caught up in traffic and throws it away. Guan right side, loses it. Wade able to keep it in the corner, looking for help and have Schaafsma.
And that was really impressive by Jaylene Wade just to keep her balance and showing off the excellent footwork right there.
Wade, three-pointer, no. Schaafsma, offensive rebound. Baseline drive, looking for somewhere to go. CUC has been able to get behind the Raiders' defense, but hasn't found a way to get through inside. But the only person that really has is that girl right there, McKaylee Hopkins.
I love the poise that McKaylee Hopkins is playing with. I mean, it's amazing. She is a true freshman, and she is taking over this game for the Cougars right now.
Chloe Kirkjian comes to the bench. Foul is called on number 24, Wendy Guan. That is her first, team's third. And again, McKaylee Hopkins has been excelling right now as the leading scorer for the Cougars. Misses the free throw, but Chloe Schaafsma is able to get in there, force the jump ball, and the Cougars have the possession arrow.
I will say the Cougars may not be shooting the best right now, but they sure are getting those offensive rebounds, and they're allowing the team to potentially get some second chance points.
Cougars 1 for 6 from the charity stripe. The Raiders 6 for 7. And the Cougars have not been in many situations this year where the free throw has decided the game, but that might be something that we have to keep a close eye on for the remainder of this game, is how well can CUC shoot from the free throw line.
And a lot of times, I mean, it hasn't happened a lot for the Cougars, but a lot of times it just comes down to who's shooting free throws better, and it might come down to that point. We don't know.
Wade, a three-pointer, no good. Rebound by Chalkshe. Cougars wanted a travel called on the Raiders, but they don't get it. Chalkshe able to get around Hopkins. Wiggum there. No foul called, but again, Wiggum, just her presence enough to throw off Chalkshe inside. Hopkins to McGregor, and that's the kind of difference that McKaylee Hopkins has on the court.
That was a great possession right there from Hopkins. First, the suffocating defense on the defensive end, and then finding McGregor in the paint and getting the steal right there.
Hopkins with the steal, one woman to beat, and gets fouled on the way up. Right now, McKaylee Hopkins is playing on another level. 6 points for the freshman. She returns to the free throw line. Chalkshe comes off, and Grace Ellington comes back on for the Raiders. 3 turnovers in the last 2 minutes and 44 seconds for the Raiders.
If you're a Cougars fan and you're watching this game today, you have reason to be excited. McKaylee Hopkins has shown that she could be a very promising player in the future for this Cougars program.
Well, good sign there. She's able to cash in 2 free throws. Was 0 for 2 before that trip. Cougars trail by 7. 3:30 remaining in the second quarter. Missed three-pointer from Menson. And it goes out of bounds, CUC's ball.
And the Cougars have a little bit of momentum right here. Coach Martin would like to see her team capitalize right here on the offensive end.
CUC on a 6-0 run over the last minute and a half. McKaylee Hopkins has led the charge of that scoring run. Was going to go inside, trying to find McGregor. Now Shafsma has it far side. Baseline drive, hits off the hand of a Raider, but Shafsma stepped out first.
And if you're Shafsma, you don't want to find yourself in a situation like that where you're trapped on the baseline and can't make a good pass. Got to keep the ball outside and pass around the perimeter.
Ellington guarded by McGregor. Man-to-man defense for CUC. Wiggum able to recover and get back on Menson. Sliding inside is Flanagan, and a foul is called and won. Skylar Flanagan out of nowhere from the wing attacks the paint and will head to the free throw line to complete the three-point play.
Skylar Flanagan was kind of quiet there for a while, but she once again made her presence felt, and she is the engine behind this MSOE offense right now.
12 points for the junior from Portage, Indiana. Had a season high of 21 points against Rockford on January 21st. A foul was called on Grace Ellington. McKaylee Hopkins hit with the knee on her drive before passing it off. Now the Cougars find themselves in the bonus. Trailing by 10 with just over 2.5 minutes remaining in the second quarter. Hopkins comes up empty-handed. So chance here for the Raiders to recover a little bit from what was a scoring run for CUC over the last 2.5 minutes in the middle of the second quarter. And it's been a quiet quarter for the Raiders scoring so far and banking it open. Chloe Kirkjian banks it in from about 18 feet out.
And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. That was great defense by Chloe Shafsma. A nice job by Chloe Kirkjian finding the bank.
And Jaylene Wade gets fouled. Goes against Grace Ellington. Ellington picks up her second foul. Coming in for the first time, Nicole Levine. As well as number 4, Mahima Chalkshe returns for the Raiders. Sydney Lloyd comes in for the Cougars, replaces Chloe Shafsma.
And I like the aggressive approach. We've seen it as the game has developed. The Cougars are getting to the free throw line. Now it's about turning those trips into conversions and being able to get those 2-for-2s.
CUC in this quarter, 4 for 10 from the free throw line, as good defense from Sydney Lloyd forces a turnover.
It was a great recovery by Lloyd. She got beat but ended up getting the block.
Wade slips it in for McGregor, but an offensive foul is called against Wade. Taking the charge for the Raiders is number 15, Nina Pearl.
And right now, Nina Pearl has not been as dynamic on offense as she usually is, but she's finding ways to contribute on the defensive end, taking the charge right there and getting her team the ball back.
Strong rebound from Wiggum. Hopkins over to Lloyd, three-pointer, no good. Bouncing around, ball finds Hopkins, now McGregor. Lloyd baseline, crosses it over, and it'll go off the foot of number 22 in red, Ella Menson. Still, the Cougars are looking for their first three-pointer of the game. They're 0 for 10. Three-pointer Wiggum, way too strong, and Lloyd last touched it. It goes out of bounds.
The Cougars have to be able to find ways to get in the paint. Right now, the three ball is just not falling for you. Have to be able to pass the ball around and find these ways to score because there are open lanes.
Chalksy with a wide open lane misses the Euro step layup. The Cougars wind this down. It'll leave some time on the clock for the Raiders to get a decently long possession. McGregor goes to work. Wade, three-pointer, no. Rebound Menson. Shot clock off. 22 seconds remaining in the half.
If you're the Cougars, you want to be able to close out this half with an excellent defensive possession to kind of spark some momentum for your team going into the second half.
Chalksy wanted to go left all the way, and the Cougars let her do just that. 3 seconds left. Hopkins has to throw up a heave. She does. Does it go? No, left short. She lost her dribble over the half-court line. Not the most promising way to end the quarter if you're the Cougars. Mahima Chalksy able to go all the way inside. And she's had great vision so far in this quarter, and we've seen her excel with her ball handling abilities. She's missed a couple shots. She's had opportunities, but she has 5 points in this game.
And that was just a nice job of utilizing her speed, finding the open lane, getting her team a bucket right before halftime.
And just looking even deeper into the box score between these two teams in terms of offensive efficiency, the Raiders are shooting nearly 46% from the field, where the Cougars are shooting under 29%. So a lot to look for in terms of improvements in the second half if you're a CUC fan. If you're a Raiders fan, you're hoping that what you've seen so far from Skylar Flanagan's three-point shooting, as well as just a collective defensive effort, is enough to hold off the Cougars on Senior Day. It's halftime here in Geisman. We'll step aside for a quick break. We'll have the third quarter and more on the Cougar Sports Network shortly. Welcome to the halftime report inside of Geisman Gymnasium. The Raiders lead the Cougars 33-21 after 2 quarters of play. And what we've seen so far from the Cougars, Parker, is the Cougars haven't been able to get inside. When they have, it's been little glimpses of what could be an exceptional offense. But right now, the Raiders are doing what they've done all season, and that's defend, defend, defend.
And right now, MSOE knows that the Cougars are struggling from 3, so they're not really putting too much priority. It's not high on their priority list to guard the 3. Right now, they're backing up and they're taking away the paint, and the Cougars have just been struggling to get inside.
And out shooting the Cougars from the 3-point line has been Skylar Flanagan. She has gone off so far with 12 points. She's led the charge of this Raiders offense. And really for CUC defensively, it's been a little bit less of what we've seen so far this year. They've kind of been exploited in some of their strongholds that we've seen this season.
Right, and I mean, I really wanted to talk about McKaylee Hopkins, and right now she's been the only one that's kind of been scoring for the Cougars, and they kind of need other players to really step up so it's not just her doing all the work.
Yeah, defensively, McKaylee Hopkins has done exactly what she's done all season. Press the ball, steal the ball, and then make it hard for the Raiders to get anything going offensively. Scoring-wise, she leads the Cougars with 8 points, but as you mentioned, there's got to be more Cougars in that in the box score in the scoring column.
Absolutely. McKaylee Hopkins has shown a lot of poise doing most of the scoring work for the Cougars, but other players have to step up. It just can't be her.
Well, as we get ready for the second half to start here in just over a minute, Parker, what do the Cougars need to do in order to pull out the victory here on senior night?
Well, they're doing an excellent job of being aggressive and getting to the line. However, the Cougars are only shooting 5 of 12 from the charity stripe. Have to be able to convert and start hitting those 2-for-2s or even 1-for-2s at this point. You cannot afford to go 0-for-2, especially in a game like this.
It's the little things that are going to matter in this game. Can the Cougars clean up their act and pull out the win on senior night? We'll see. We're going to step aside for a quick break, and we'll return with the third quarter of basketball on the Cougars Sports Network.
Concordia University Chicago is a Christ-centered Lutheran university where truth, freedom, and vocation form students for lives of influence and service for the common good. Our university offers a wide variety of undergraduate and graduate degree options that are available in person and online. That means we have a program designed for you. Whether you're a high school student, an adult returning to complete your degree, or someone looking to enhance your credentials and prepare for career growth. As a member of this university community, you'll also find support in your spiritual and personal life so you can grow in the faith and discover ways to serve others. To start your next journey with us, visit cuchicago.edu today.
Over to CUCougars.com for everything CUC athletics and women's basketball. Click Sports and Women's Basketball in the drop-down menu to find rosters, schedules, stats, and more at CUCougars.com. Raiders will get the ball to open up the third quarter. And as we talked about just moments ago in the halftime report, the Raiders right now have done an exceptional job of finding a way past the Cougars defense, getting inside. And look at this, opening it up. The Cougars are protecting the paint, and they're in a soft zone right now.
And that's a smart approach because as we say that they score, but the Raiders have been exploiting the Cougars in different ways on offense, and I like that aggressive approach.
Well, Chalsky shooting 35% from the three-point arc this season, hitting her second three-pointer of the game to open up the third quarter, and that's just one way to keep going of where you left off in the second quarter. Princess Gates tried the turnaround jumper.
And Princess Gates so far in this game has been fairly quiet, and we talked about this in the halftime report. Other players need to step up besides McKaylee Hopkins. Princess Gates is one of those players that Coach Martin expects to step up in the second half.
Can the defense shut down the Raiders? No! Look at that. Mahima Chalksky, back-to-back three-pointers. She now has 11 points in this game, but the Cougars able to respond with Allison McGregor inside.
And that's not a great way to start off a second half, allowing MSOE to shoot 2 threes in a row, but a great response right there by McGregor.
And a foul is called on McKaylee Hopkins. Should note that the second three-pointer from Chalksky was ruled a two-pointer, so she only has 10 points in the game. Hopkins picks up her first personal foul. So Chalksky will head to the free throw line for her first attempts at free throws in this game.
And an interesting note to highlight, MSOE 7 of 8, now 8 for 9 from the free throw line, and they're really exceptional from the charity stripe today, and that's a big reason why they're up so big on the Cougars right now.
Chalksky has put up double-digit points in her last 3 games and now make it 4 with her performance here today inside Geisman Gymnasium. 8 of her last 9 games have also come with 10 or more points.
And Chalksky has been one of those role players that Coach Trees really relies on, and so far she's really stepping up in place of Nina Pearl, who hasn't been as dynamic on offense as she typically is.
Skylar Flanagan fouls Princess Gates. Gates so far today 0 for 3 from the field. Picks up her first points. On the season, Gates has appeared in 17 games, averaging just over 3 points in each appearance. One of the younger players for the team, but has definitely grown since her freshman year last year. Seen more playing time in her sophomore year campaign, but McKaylee Hopkins picks up another foul. Her second, and right now what we're seeing is a little bit of fatigue showing for the Cougars on the defensive side. We think halftime would have favored them in getting a little water break, some coaching tips, and just resting the bodies, but McKaylee Hopkins picks up 2 quick fouls and finds herself on the bench.
And right now, McKaylee Hopkins can afford those 2 fouls since she didn't have any in the first half. However, the team is going to need her later on, so she can't afford to play sloppy defense for the remainder of the game.
Ellis guarded by Flanagan. Good crossover. Wade, a three-pointer, no. And look at that, Princess Gates with the rebound, can't finish. Gets knocked around. Wade gets the ball back to Gates. And now CUC will slow everything down.
Great rebound by Princess Gates. She wishes she could have finished, but it was a great rebound to allow her team to get the ball back.
A foul was called on Chloe Kirkjian. Picks up her second personal foul. Team second. So after it initially looked like it was going to be some free throws for Chloe Schaafsma, the refs make the adjustment, and it was a foul on the court. CUC again moving it around the perimeter. Has been hesitant to go inside, and the Raiders keep forcing CUC to take those three-pointers, and they have yet to convert today.
And at what point will the Cougars realize they haven't made a 3 all game? Try to get inside more, keep being aggressive, and get to the line.
Mahima Chalksky, now who picks up her second three-pointer in the quarter, and the Raiders pick up a foul on the Cougars. A charge was called, and right now it is all MSOE here inside Geisman Gymnasium. Sydney Lloyd and McKaylee Hopkins come back on the court. Ellis picks up the foul, her third personal foul, so something to keep in mind as she is now guarding Skylar Flanagan.
Michaela Ellis is one of those players, provides senior leadership for this team. She's a great offensive scorer. They're going to need her to step up as well.
And McGregor comes up with the steal. Wade crosses court. Slow start for CUC offensively every possession. Looking for some sort of spark plug. Someone to hit a shot. Wake up the offense. A three-pointer from Michaela Ellis misses, and you can hear from the side, Hannah Treese, the head coach for the Raiders, will say, we'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching MSOE, they're not really putting much pressure on the Cougars if they're shooting from the three-point line. They're making sure the paint is protected, and it's been a great game plan for them so far.
Wade was able to win the size disadvantage against Ella Menson in the paint. Menson, 5'11", missed a shot inside. Lloyd misses another three-pointer. Cougars have really struggled from long range in this game. Hopkins comes in for CUC. Williams and Ellington for the Raiders. And just to kind of talk about Chalksky a little bit more, even though she's on the bench, she has 10 points in this quarter. She had 5 in the first 2.
And right now she's just taken over. Skylar Flanagan took over in the first, and now it's Mahia Chalksky, and I mean, she's been playing excellent in the second half.
Michaela Ella is able to go inside again on the last shot. CUC, again, can they just build upon the success of the scoring? And they'll give it up to Ellis. Bodes out wide. Gives it to Wade. Three-pointer, top of the key. Bang! 0 for 16 as a team from 3 in the game, but number 17.
And
Jaylene Wade hits the first one. Finally, the Cougars break the curse of the three-pointer.
And Jaylene Wade is one of those players that has a lot of confidence. Yes, she was 0 for 6 from 3, but she was one of those players that's going to keep shooting, and it eventually worked out for her.
An electric and 1 from Rakia Williams. And right now, defensively, CUC has been switching a lot. Off-ball movement from the Raiders has put the Cougars' defense in shambles at time, and Jaylene Wade found herself trying to guard the 5'9" forward. Rakia Williams, again, just coming up big inside, trying to complete the and 1 play.
And since you're getting beat when you're playing man for the Cougars, it might be a good idea to switch into a zone where you take out more of that interior, and it's a better defense regarding the interior. So that may be an adjustment that the Cougars may want to make.
Raiders up by 16. Ellis, mid-range jumper, does not fall. It took a couple bounces off the rim. So defense needs to step up for the Cougars. Obviously, the offense has been a concern all game. Three-pointer, Flanagan hits it, and the Raiders have been on fire from deep in this quarter. Now 4 for 5 from behind the three-point arc. They draw a charge. And just right now, everything is going MSOE's way.
Think about it. MSOE coming into today shooting just under 27% from 3, which ranked 9th in the NAC. Today they're shooting 70%. This team is playing very motivated ball on the road.
Williams inside, try to get around Lloyd. And then Nina Pearl, we haven't said her name much today, gets the offensive rebound, gets fouled, and will have free throws after the timeout from Coach Martin finishes up. The Raiders out to their largest lead of the day by 19 points. 4:04 remaining in the third quarter. CUC goes to the chalkboard and looks for some solutions to the Raiders scoring onslaught, really, Parker. And what we're seeing right now is just CUC has been out of sorts, and it's kind of like the identity for this squad has been lost here today.
And it just seems, I know you touched on this, but it just looks like their defense is fatigued. And right now is not the time where that fatigue sets in. And you're just looking for other players to step up, because right now it's just been McKaylee Hopkins who has had the best defensive effort so far. Other players need to step up.
What we're seeing right now on the sideline is Coach Martin having a strong talking to the bench right now and the entire team. And this isn't a coach that's trying to do anything game tactics right now. She hasn't even pulled out the whiteboard to talk about any kind of play. That was just a reminder right there. I wouldn't even call that a pep talk, but that is just a reminder of what the team is about, what this team has done so well this season. And Coach Martin used that full-minute timeout to basically retell the story of kind of what we've seen so far this season in terms of strengths for CUC, telling them, get back to this, let's go. You got 14 minutes left in this game.
Yeah, Coach Martin wasn't even trying to draw up anything. She just needs her team to have a wake-up call and realize that MSOE is having their way right now, and that's not okay. They have to have better effort on defense, and so far the Cougars have just been, to be frank, lazy on the defensive end.
Yeah, Nina Pearl, we haven't said her name much today. It's only her 6th point of the ball game. The only Raider that we've mentioned is to touch double digits on the season average right now. She goes 2 for 2.
Yeah, Pearl is just one of those players that, yeah, she may not be having her best offensive night, but she's reliable, and when the team needs her most, she will provide.
So checking in for the Raiders is number 22, Ella Menson, replacing Grace Ellington. But if you look right now on the court for the Cougars, Allison McGregor's not out there, so this is a shooter's offense right now for CUC.
And that's kind of an interesting approach because the 3-ball hasn't really been falling for the Cougars. Only one made 3 in the game. This is an interesting approach by Coach Martin.
Hopkins, a rare 3-pointer in the corner. McKaylee Hopkins has not hit a 3-pointer all season. Was 0 for 9 before that shot, but again, some things just are meant to be broken, and right now CUC hits their first 3-pointer in the third, and McKaylee Hopkins picks up her first as well.
And we talked about how poised McKaylee Hopkins is, and she's playing very poised right now. Her team needed her, and she stepped up.
11 points for Hopkins. Gets a finger on Flanagan's shot, and it goes out of bounds.
Suffocating defense by Hopkins right there, not allowing Flanagan to make her 4th 3-pointer of the day.
Gates a 3-pointer, and the Cougars go back-to-back. Just like that, the Cougars, who are 0 for 16 coming into the third quarter, have found a way to hit 3.
And it looks like Coach Martin's wake-up call has worked a little bit. Let's see how the Cougars play through the remainder of the half.
Well, this might just be me, but if you're a coach and your team has not hit a 3-pointer yet, put your best shooters out there. If you lose by the 3-pointer, you can't make one, that's just basketball right there. But in that sense, this can't get much worse than this is right now. And CUC has obviously found something in that Coach Martin pep talk that has sparked the 3-pointer. And the defense as well, as CUC has put up some good defensive stands since then. Trailing by 15 with 2:21 remaining. Wiggum, step back, mid-range, short. Ellis is right there. She goes up, and there was no chance for Williams to stop Ellis. Michaela Ellis now has 8 points.
And right there, Michaela Ellis just showed how strong of a player she is. Right there, had the ball, went up strong, and got the bucket. What an excellent possession right there from Michaela Ellis.
McKaylee Hopkins shifts into the next gear, going all the way, wild layup attempt. She misses, and then Princess Gates fouls Ella Menson, who picked up the rebound. So the Raiders will be in the bonus for the remainder of the quarter. Kirkjian comes in to replace Williams for MSOE. And Skylar Flanagan is replaced by Nicole Levine. CUC on an 8-0 scoring run over the last minute and 54 seconds. The Raiders have been 2 of their last 10 from the field.
And the roles have kind of flipped here. And, you know, CUC going on a scoring run and MSOE on a scoring drought. It's something that we haven't seen over the course of this game so far.
And how about 2 missed free throws from the Raiders, a la Menson. But CUC turns it over. 14th turnover of the game for the Cougars, only 8 for the Raiders.
And that's been a huge difference maker in the game so far. The team that turns the ball over less typically comes out with the victory, and CUC's just turned the ball over a little bit too much.
And Princess Gates picks up her 3rd personal foul, but we saw Wade trying to isolate Chalksey on the far side, and as soon as Chalksey was able to cross over to her left hand, she took off. And if Gates didn't foul her there, she probably would have had an easy layup.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it's just a smart thing to foul. Chalkshy had an easy lane to the basket, and probably that was a smart approach by Wade.
Cougars find themselves down by 15 again. Minute 25 remaining in the third quarter. Ellis backing down inside. Wiggum now trying to find some room. Ellis a three-pointer. Bang! Michaela Ellis has started to step up her game as she now reaches double-digit scoring on her birthday with 11.
And talk about the Cougars coming alive right now. I mean, they put their best shooters on the floor, and so far it's worked out for them.
And the foul goes against Ellis. It was in that cluster of bodies going after the missed shot from the Raiders that Michaela Ellis gets the whistle. So now Ellis will come to the bench for the remainder of 57 seconds. Allison McGregor checks in. And something to keep in mind, too, Michaela Ellis has 4 fouls, so you have to pull her in that situation.
You absolutely have to. I mean, she's been big in this third quarter for the Cougars, and you can't afford to play without her.
So Kirkjian misses the first free throw, is able to get the second. Wade gives it up to Gates. Wade, nice crossover. Almost a good play inside. That would have been a highlight reel shot for sure for Wade if she made it.
We've seen her knock down that shot before.
It's about 14 seconds separating shot clock and game clock. Good defense by Gates inside, guarding Pearl. 20 seconds remaining in the third quarter. And again, it's kind of what we saw at the end of the first half. The Cougars are trying to get everybody flat on the baseline. McGregor trying to use the screen. Three-pointer from Allison McGregor. Almost had it. And the buzzer sounds. After 3 quarters of play, the Raiders still have the lead by a score of 54-41. When we come back, we'll have the final 10 minutes of play here on Senior Day on the Cougars Sports Network. Welcome back to the Cougar Sports Network. Carter Gledhill, Parker Kelly with you on the call, but other members of the crew all around Geisman Gymnasium helping us out, produce this amazing broadcast you're watching right now. Jada Carr, Kate Johnson, Katie Schrems, Stormy Devine, Julia Beers, as well as Wyatt McLaughlin and Chandler Kerr under the direction of Sydney Palaskis-Laher, Claire Hickey, and Kayla McLeod. Only one more home basketball game for CUC. And that is next Wednesday against Lakeland University. Coverage of that game will start at 6:45 with the pregame show and tip off at 7 p.m. here on the Cougar Sports Network. Now here we go, Parker. Senior Day, so there might be a little bit some magic for the Cougars left, but do they have enough of it to pull out the comeback victory here against the Raiders.
It looked like after that Coach Lauren Martin pep talk that they were playing extra motivated, so should be an exciting fourth quarter for sure.
Missouri Wiggum with the offensive rebound and try to keep it in bounds. Raiders are able to pick it up, and now they're going the other way. And Wiggum herself, she hasn't had a great scoring game, but just to highlight too, 3 rebounds for her. She's been all around, just forcing the ball around the Raiders offense because of her presence.
Yeah, we talked about it, that Missouri Wiggum, is not the best scorer of this Cougars team, but she's a role player, and she executes her role very well.
So turnover inside by McKaylee Hopkins. Chalkski falls down. No foul called. Pearl takes it all the way. Foul and 1. Nina Pearl finds herself in double digits. If she can make this free throw here. But again, we haven't said her name much, but when the time has come for her to score, she has for the Raiders.
Yeah, she's definitely rose to the occasion. Pretty silent in the first half, starting to come alive a little bit in the second half. Trying to help MSOE close out this game here in River Forest.
Back-to-back double-digit games for Pearl. Wiggum with the three-pointer, no. McGregor with the rebound. Schaafsma, three-pointer, no good. And the ball bounces off the foot of Flanagan. But just to kind of slow things down here, we've already seen 1 minute and 18 seconds played in the fourth quarter, and CUC seems a little bit trigger-happy right now with a three-pointer.
And that's what happens when you start to get a little bit of success shooting three. Now that's all of a sudden your bread and butter. I don't like that quick shot by Missouri Wiggum. Have to be able to pass the ball around a little bit more, and just know that just because the three has fallen for you in the third quarter doesn't mean that's going to be the answer in the fourth.
And Gates gets fouled in the paint. It was number 22, Ella Menson. Or excuse me now, number 14, Samantha Brown. Brown getting her first minutes of play here in the fourth quarter. Again, CUC right now trailed by as much as 21 near the end of the third quarter. They've worked it back to just a 16-point deficit, but it's going to take a lot for the Cougars to get back in this one. Mid-ranger from Gates, no good. And a foul is called. It'll go against MSOE's Chloe Kirkjian. Kirkjian picks up her second personal foul.
Lucky break right there from the Cougars after the foul from Kirkjian.
And right now what we're seeing is just some extra possessions for the Cougars just because of some of the fouls from MSOE, as Princess Gates just knocks the ball out of bounds after the botched inbounds play. But if MSOE is going to keep hanging around and giving chances for the Cougars to stay in this ball game, CUC needs to find a way to execute a couple more shots and obviously turn up the intensity on the defensive end.
I was just getting ready to say, if you're blessed enough with those opportunities for second chance points, you should capitalize on them, and you have to in a game like this.
And Princess Gates fouls Samantha Brown. So Gates now picks up her fourth personal foul. Michaela Ellis will check in for Gates. Again, Ellis with 4 fouls and something to watch out for. But also for MSOE, back in Rakia Williams. 8 points for her. She's been a good defensive specialist for MSOE, but she's also excelled inside the paint. 8 seconds on the shot clock for the Raiders. Chalkshi all the way back by the center court logo, guarded, throws up a heave from deep, almost makes it. And now in transition, McKaylee Hopkins pulls it back. Wade, a three-pointer, off the mark, chases it down, gets her own rebound. All the way out, Michaela Ellis, a three-pointer, and she hits it. Michaela Ellis, 14 points.
I mentioned the Cougars would need her in the fourth quarter, and right there, a huge shot for the Cougars to give them some momentum.
So most points for Hopkins since her 17-point performance on January 7th against Concordia, Wisconsin. Jaylene Wade tries to go coast to coast, and a foul is called on Ella Menson.
This is exactly what the Cougars need to do in this type of situation. Be aggressive and get to the line, and you got to be able to capitalize.
Well, how about that? The Raiders take their first timeout of the game, and it comes at the 7:01 mark in the fourth quarter. A full timeout taken by Hannah Trees, and the Raiders, maybe they're starting to feel the pressure of the Cougars. They only lead 59-44. Cougar fans, be sure to check out our YouTube page, CUC Sports, for new digital content, interviews, and all broadcasts on the Cougar Sports Network. Now you can become a channel member for $5 a month to receive exclusive access to content and the ability to participate in live chats during the broadcast. If you don't want to become a member at this time, you can donate to the CUC Athletic Communications Department to continue to improve the broadcast you're watching by clicking the thank button on any video. We sincerely appreciate all of your support. So a timeout called by the Raiders, again, their first of the game. And it was an animated Hannah Trees in the huddle for the Raiders as Michaela Ellis chucks up a three, and a foul is called against CUC. Or instead it just hit off the top of the basket, the little ribbon dangling over. So very easy press break for the Raiders as the Cougars came out in a full court press. And we might see more of that here in the closing minutes of the fourth quarter, Parker.
Definitely got to amp it up a little bit, take it up a notch on defense in a close game like this.
Ellis's pass for Hopkins just out of the reach of the freshman. So a turnover for CUC, and that's one thing they have to just minimize here in the final quarter of play is you cannot allow for empty possessions and turnovers in a game where you're trailing by double digits.
In a game like this where there's only 6 minutes remaining, every single possession counts, and you're right, the Cougars just have to capitalize.
Allison McGregor gets called for her first foul of the game. Kayla Jackson checks in for the Cougars. Good defense from Jackson. And Jackson hasn't played much this year for the Cougars. She started seeing more playing time towards the back end of the season, and now her 10th appearance, averaging 3 minutes a game. Hopkins, a three-pointer. Nope, hits it short. Jackson off the bench with the rebound.
Looks like Jackson is a little bit of a spark plug right now, getting the huge offensive board.
And almost a great shot from Michaela Ellis. Just didn't roll in the shooter's favor. Wade almost with the steal on Chalkshy. Kirkjian will pull it out, guarded by Hopkins. Now fighting around McGregor. Williams gives it up to Kirkjian. And there's a loose ball on the floor. Chalkshy with a three. Rattles out, ball popping around. Kayla Jackson with the rebound.
Huge, huge back-to-back rebounds from Kayla Jackson.
Michaela Ellis puts her heads down, looking for a teammate. Hopkins taking it inside, throws it off the backboard, and that was not a smart shot there from the freshman.
Although Hopkins is going to be a great player for this Cougar squad, sometimes what gets her into a little bit of a trouble is she is very fast, and sometimes she's out of control on drives such as that last one.
Raiders get it inside. Menson hits the side of the backboard. Ellis brings it up for CUC. Under 5 minutes to play. Cougars trail by 15. They have not scored in the last 2.5 minutes, but Ellis ends that drought. She now has 16 points.
And Ellis has come alive in this second half, and she's shooting the ball excellent.
And just as the Cougars score, Nina Pearl and the Raiders score, and it's back out to a 15-point lead for MSOE. 30-second timeout taken by the Raiders. 4:26 remaining. Cougars trying to get back into this game on senior night. You're watching the Cougar Sports Network. Cougars trail by 15 with 4:26 remaining, and we've seen a couple possessions for the Cougars where they have had great offensive movement. It's led to points. We've also seen poor offensive play, and it's led to turnovers and empty possessions.
And there have been a few empty possessions for the Cougars. It just doesn't look like they're playing with that alertness here in the fourth quarter.
Kayla Jackson, I have to give credit where credit's due. This senior right now, coming off the bench, getting her first minutes of the game, she has gone after every loose ball and rebound that she is in her vicinity, and she is definitely shining right now for CUC.
And she's pulled in already 4 major boards for the Cougars, and it's just been very impressive. When she gets her chance, she makes the most of it with her effort.
Well, how about this? Kayla Jackson just set a new career high with those 4 rebounds. And didn't take long for her. Let's see what else she can do here in the game. Good defense from Ellis on Flanagan. Hopkins the other way. Guarded by Ellington. Baseline, gives it up, was intended for Jackson, and it's another turnover for CUC.
The last 4 minutes are going to be huge, and just having those empty possessions absolutely kill the momentum of your team.
Jackson now starting to apply some pressure. Every possession is going to be even more important for CUC to try to slow down MSOE. Chalksy with a 2K style layup left it just short on the right side. Nearing the 3-minute mark in the game. The Cougars don't want to have to shoot the three-pointer if they're forced to, but again, we're just seeing right now it's just quick shots from CUC, and on the flip side, MSOE is going to take their time and wind this clock down.
And the Cougars just haven't been able to draw up anything offensively that has worked for them, and MSOE has, hence why they're leading by 15 right now in the fourth quarter.
A nice step back from Chalksy, now with 19 points in the game. CUC back on offense, 1 of 7. Well, that ends the trend right there. I was going to go on about how CUC has struggled with their open possessions and turnovers, but Allison McGregor gets back in the scoring column now with 5 points. Left hand inside, no good from Ellington. It rolled out of bounds, and it'll stay with the Raiders. Chloe Shopsma comes in to replace McKaylee Hopkins. Nina Pearl in to replace Grace Ellington. Next game for the Raiders will be on the road in De Pere, Wisconsin against St. Norbert College at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, February 8th. The Cougars will be on the road against Rockford next Wednesday at 7 p.m. And Chalksy hits another three-pointer right now. It's been all Chalksy and the Raiders. She's really come alive here in the second half, Parker, and again, she's just excelled as CUC's kind of been steady with what they've been able to produce.
And we see coming into today, it was Nina Pearl, the engine of this team, and in the first half, Skylar Flanagan and now Chalksy, both players have stepped up big time, and Chalksy with 22, Flanagan with 15. It's been very impressive, this MSOE offense.
5 seconds on the shot clock. Chalksy wasn't able to play hero again. Jackson with the rebound. Wade, minute 24 remaining. Cougars now are going to have to start shooting the three-pointer. It's partially blocked by Kirkjian. Chloe Schausma can't get it to go. Hannah Trees calling for her team to slow things down. And right now, number 4 for the Raiders. Probably one of the biggest halves she's had this season. 17 points in the second half for Mahima Chokshi.
She's just really come alive. She's been doing it from all aspects. She's been shooting well from inside the three-point line, outside, and from the free throw line.
And she just keeps adding to her total, now with 24 points. That is a new season high for Mahima Chokshi. Schausma with the drive inside and gets fouled on the way up by number 11, Skylar Flanagan. Missouri Wiggum, Janie Turnez, and Emily Balaban check in for Jaylene Wade, Michaela Ellis, and Allison McGregor. Nicole Levine checks in for Skylar Flanagan. And then one more substitution to come after some free throws from Chloe Schaufsma. But again, talking about the 7 seniors here for CUC. Jaylene Wade, Michaela Ellis, Chloe Schaufsma, Bailey Steinkamp, Madeline McGrath, Kayla Jackson, and Jada Dixon. Might not have been the best way to have, or game I should say, for senior night in terms of results, but nonetheless, as Coach Martin subs out Chloe Schaufsma and Kayla Jackson, there's a lot still to be proud of for these groups, or this group of players for CUC.
And there's been signs of promise, especially with McKaylee Hopkins. She really showed her poise today and how dynamic she is on both ends of the floor, offensive and defensive.
Chokshi on the right elbow, throws one up, airballs it, it goes out of bounds. Probably the only bad shot we've seen her take today. 13 seconds and change on the clock. Missouri Wiggum will bring it up for the Cougars. And Wiggum will dribble it out, and that'll be the end here inside of Geisman Gymnasium. Final score from River Forest. The Milwaukee School of Engineering Raiders 68, the Concordia University Chicago Cougars 49. A 19-point loss for the Cougars on senior night. Not what they had thought it would be, but again, there's still a lot of things to be proud of if you're a Cougar fan, especially with the senior group that will be leaving after this year. But let's just get inside the box score a little bit. One senior, Michaela Ellis, making the most of her game. A team-high 16 points. She was also picked up 4 rebounds as well. It's her birthday. Obviously, happy birthday to Michaela Ellis. She had a great game for herself. But again, her absence, that she hasn't been in the lineup in the last couple games, it's a big difference maker when we have number 4 in white on the court.
Absolutely. The Cougars are ecstatic to get her back, and she played a heck of a game since her last appearance against Aurora University a few weeks prior. 16 points, shot 50% from the field, and she just an incredible performance by her.
McKaylee Hopkins, the other double-digit scorer for the Cougars. It's with 11 points. She was 1 rebound shy of a double-double with 9 rebounds and 4 assists. But one final thing to touch on before we wrap up the pregame show. Obviously want to tell everybody again, the Cougars are going to be back in action next Wednesday. And for the Cougars, they will be taking on Rockford University at 7 p.m. at the Seaver Center. Their last final home game of the season, I should say, will be the following Wednesday, February 15th at 7 p.m. against Lakeland University. You know, we talk about senior day, and obviously there are seniors that have played more than others. There are seniors that have records and more points and everything. But if there is one person for the Cougars that can be proud of what happened today, and I will vouch for her on this as well, and just her performance, Kayla Jackson off the bench, 5 minutes in the game, but 5 rebounds. She came off the bench in a game that was somewhat out of hand for CUC, and she played her heart out, and that's exactly what you want from a senior, is to go out there when your number is called and play like that. Big congrats to Kayla Jackson with 5 rebounds in this game.
Yeah, and we've harped on it on this broadcast, making the most of your opportunity. We see that McKaylee Hopkins in her first 2 starts have really just shown signs of promise, and Kayla Jackson, somebody that doesn't get a lot of recognition, a lot of minutes. When her number was called, she made the most of it, setting a career season high with 5 rebounds, and just she left it all out on the floor.
On the Raiders side of the court, Mahima Chokshi showed up and showed out. 24 points. She was 4-7 from deep. As a new season high for the freshman from Park Ridge, Illinois, as well as Skylar Flanagan, 15 points. She was 3 of 5 from three-pointers in the game. Nina Pearl reaches double digits with 12 points and 6 rebounds. But, hey, out of all that, Chloe Kirkjian with 14 rebounds, a quiet defensive presence for Kirkjian. And it just seemed like we didn't talk about the rebounding as much for MSOE because there was a lot of fouls on CUC's offense when they would go down the court, or just turnovers. But Kirkjian comes up with double-digit rebounds. Even though the record says 4-16, now 5-16, the Raiders definitely have some really good young players for the future.
Yeah, and we knew coming into this game how good of a defensive team MSOE is. But their offense was the storyline today. They had 4 players in double digits, and that's a sign for great things to come for Coach Trees and her program.
Final score one more time from Geisman Gymnasium. The Raiders 68, the Cougars 49. I want to thank my partner, Parker Kelly, for being on the call today, as well as everybody on the Cougar Sports Network production sides of things, under the direction of Cindy Pulaskis Lawher, Claire Hickey, and Kayla McLeod. I'm Carter Gledhill signing off from inside Geisman Gymnasium. We'll see you soon for more Cougar basketball on the Cougar Sports Network.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Concordia University Chicago Cougars Athletics broadcast. We hope to see you on campus very soon. If you would like to learn more about what Concordia Chicago has to offer, go to cuchicago.edu.